We are the Girls Anachronism. This is a costume history podcast. My name is Kate Wood.
Oh, and I'm Caitlin Flynn.
And we went to college together at Stevens College, and we majored in costume design.
Woo-woo!
So, that's why we feel like we're qualified to do this podcast. We will hopefully in the future bring along other former classmates who also have degrees in costume design. Since college, I designed hair for Cahoe's Music Hall and also worked for Dallas Theater Center doing wardrobe. And Caitlin, what have you been?
Oh, what I've been doing is I've been volunteering for the Sacramento Ballet in their costume shop, working on whatever shows happen to be there. I also was the costume designer for a small production at the R Street Theater here in Sacramento, California, and just regular, I do my own costume history research on my own time and things like that.
Awesome. What would you say is your favorite time period?
Oh God, my favorite time period? My favorite time period, I think I have two, are probably like Elizabethan, Tudor, that kind of like mid-late 1500s, and then like 1870 to 1880. Like that decade was just gorgeous.
That was a fun decade.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss those time periods later in our show. My personal favorite time periods, I love the 1940s up through the 1960s. About 1965 is kind of where I start jumping off of the boat. I mean, I appreciate the 70s. I did hair. I love it. But for me personally, it's not my favorite. In my own day-to-day, I dress rockabilly, as you know, Caitlin, but our listeners do not. But so I'm very infatuated with that. And then outside of that, I am obsessed with just Japanese fashion history. I've been to Japan. I have a yukata. I've read and studied up a lot on hand painting silk and dyeing and the kimono. So that's one of my favorites. But I think sort of the post-Meiji Revolution kind of time period's amazing because there were so many changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they incorporated the Japanese style with like Western style stuff.
Yeah, so those are my favorites, but so let's talk about today's topic. Do you want to introduce it?
We're going to talk about Downton Abbey and accuracies, inaccuracies, time period, what was going on, socio-political, changes and things like that.
Right, and pretty much everyone that I know loves Downton Abbey.
Oh, yeah.
And how can you not?
I don't know.
The costumes are fantastic. They really do a good job. As Caitlin and I were researching this, we really had a hard time finding
anything really.
Yeah, a whole lot of anachronisms. They really do a good job. Now with props, that's another story. But that's also another podcast. So we're not going to talk about any props anachronisms or linguistic anachronisms because they do have some, but
yeah,
that's not what we're concerned about. Caitlin, what anachronisms have you noticed?
Basically, probably like the hunting scenes I've heard a lot about and like did research and it didn't look quite right. Like the guns were not. They were too old, but also like the socks, they should have been wearing +4s instead of leather gaiters, and things like that. And the dog would not have been present, especially a lab. And the gaiters would have been one thing if they weren't, an earl. Mm-hmm. And, their person with them would have been wearing them maybe, but other than that. Yeah. Right,
because they existed, and maybe for somebody who couldn't afford to stay modern and fashionable, that, they might wear that. Although, I don't know how many hunting parties they would have been invited on.
Yeah.
I believe the problem with those particular gaiters was that they were more late 1800s.
Oh, yeah, they were older. That's what I thought. Yeah.
So not so much for that. Let's see. I really haven't noticed very much as far as the clothing. What I love is just how hard that they work to keep everything so accurate. You know, that's as a costume designer, that's a real passion of ours, is to get it as accurate as possible. And then so many times you have a director who doesn't know the time period, or doesn't care, and they just want something because they like it. They don't care if it's accurate. And so it seems like the costume designers for Downton Abbey are really lucky, because the director and producers care just as much as they do about really staying on top of it.
Yeah, they really care. They take antique laces, they go shopping for antique garments and pieces and things like that, and they piece them into the show to create like really authentic pieces with, you know, actual pieces from back then. So that makes it all the better, more realistic.
Right. And I mean, the fun and not fun thing about using historical garments is they're 100 years old. They're falling apart. The bees aren't as attached as they once were. And so I was reading in one interview just about some of the on-set disasters, about how when they're holding for a silent moment, they hear beads dropping.
Falling, yeah.
Yeah, and so the wardrobe department is pretty much always on site so that they are quickly tacking back on those beads. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's not just what you see on the outside. They also really do a great job with the underwear. Oh, yeah. Because you do see them in undress and in their night clothes, and their hair, you know, is down but braided and properly put away. And, you know, Anna's always helping her lady get dressed. And that's, yeah, I love seeing that. Well, and it changes your shape. You know, there's a reason... and this might relate a little bit more to everybody, but when you go to try on a formal dress or formal wear, you're supposed to wear the underwear. The undergarments you're going to be wearing in the dress. Because it completely changes the way your body's held. Yeah. And you know, each bra is a different bra. Each girdle, you know, is a little different. And so if you're not wearing the right undergarments, you don't have the right silhouette. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can really see the shape progression from the season 1 versus, you know, this season, where, you know, it goes from that, you know, teens 1912, which is, you know, more hourglassy, and then it starts to slowly shift to like a more flatter, that boyish 20s look. And you do see the progression of the undergarments throughout, you know, the years. Right. And I'm glad that you brought up the progression, because there was a lot happening in society during that time. So there was a lot of outward progression as well as with our underwear. So women were getting the rights to vote. Mm-hmm. We had World War I. Yeah. Which meant women couldn't wear those cumbersome gowns anymore. Like, that just wasn't practical anymore. They needed proper shoes, the ability to move. Their outfits needed to be cleaned by themselves. They needed to be able to get dressed quickly and easily. Their hair needed to be easy to do. Like, it was a complete 180 from, like, earlier years. Yeah, the Edwardian time period was no longer functional or acceptable for World War I. Mm-hmm. It was way too constraining. Women just couldn't function, really. Yeah, and you can't. If you tried to lace up an Edwardian corset or a Victorian corset, first of all, you're going to faint. Unless you have had some serious corset training. Yeah. And all you're going to do is want to sit and look pretty and maybe do some, you know, table painting and embroidery. That's it. And that's why the ladies did table painting and embroidery in those times. Crocheting pillows and things. Because you really couldn't do a whole lot more. Maybe a walk-ish. Right. A turn around the room. Yes, a turn around the room. Or the garden. So it wasn't just, you know, women getting the right to vote. They weren't just going out and burning their corsets and, you know, rock on Sister Suffragette. they were wanting to move and to help their boys.
Yeah,
fighting.
they wanted help with the war. Yeah.
So, so that was probably one of the biggest reasons behind the changes as far as the clothing. We also start to see a lower waistline.
Mm-hmm.
The waistline starts to come down, and the boyish look starts to become very popular.
Especially after the war. That's a big thing. Because women, had jobs when the men went away. They worked. They had their own money. They did their own thing. And so it's kind of like, looks more like powerful to me, at least, like more suited for the office. Like, I'm going to work now. Like, things like that.
Right. And, the British, we see it, pretty much every episode with Downton Abbey. The older generation did not like change.
No, they did not.
They were very slow to accept it, whereas, we have the Sibyls of the world embracing it and hitting it straight on. Straight on
in that Oriental pant outfit.
Oh, those harem pants.
The harem pants. Ooh, the look on the dowager. Ooh, she was like, no, unacceptable. You can see her ankles, my God.
Well, not just her ankles, but her individual legs.
Yeah, her feet and her legs, separate. Oh my.
Yes, it was such a fantastic moment. And the top on it.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, it was so beautiful. And her headpiece, every part of it,
everything.
She just really nailed. The designers did a really amazing job with that. I think that is probably my favorite costume in all of Downton Abbey.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too.
I also really, really like Lady Mary's blue coat with the fur collar and cuffs from the 20s. Like, can that actress pull off a 1920s silhouette or what?
Like, all of it, all the time, every day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, she looks like she just walked out of a magazine from then. She could have been, just the it girl of that time. She really nails it. Even her face, she has the aquiline nose. She has, kind of the square jaw, because beauty has changed. So, face shapes as far as what is desirable also change. And she just really hits it on no wonder the boys are fighting over her. No wonder she's constantly having to
fight them off, beat them off.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I really love Lady Mary. She's one of my favorites. Oh, let's talk about Jazz era.
Oh, the Jazz era, yeah.
All right.
Oh my God.
What's the name of the youngest girl? The cousin?
Rose?
Rose, okay.
Rose really, she definitely is, like, just kind of, she's gonna go with the times. She doesn't care what other people think. She wants to dance. She's gonna move. She's gonna wear those dresses with the beads and the frills and everything for the jazz age. And when she goes to that speakeasy type jazz club and they find her dancing with a married man or, whatever. I mean, that's like the beginning of that whole jazz era. I mean.
Right. Well, and, so we had Sybil, who kind of shocked and challenged her family forward. And so Rose is our new Sybil.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that we have Rose. As sad as I was to lose Sybil, she was becoming a mother, and mothers are known to kind of calm down a little bit, focus more on family, and so I don't think she would have rocked the boat and brought us this far forward if she had stayed on the show. So now we have Rose, and the music just starts getting really good. Yeah,
it's faster. It's brought in things from different, like, Oriental type, Middle Eastern, like, influences. African, King Tut's tomb was discovered in 1922-ish, I think? 22? Maybe? I can't remember exactly the date. But that influenced everything a lot. The motifs on the dresses suddenly became Egyptian in style. A lot of that influence happened very quickly. And then, the music kind of had that kind of a little bit of it, too.
Mm-hmm. The young people, they just got out of a war. Even if they weren't old enough to be part of it, it was a very serious time, and they just kind of wanted to be happy that they were alive.
Yeah.
Because they had lost a lot of their, young boys out in the field, and so they just wanted to enjoy life. The women now could wear clothes that weren't restrictive, so they could dance. They, the rumba, the samba, the conga, tango. Those were all some of the most popular dances of the time period.
And they were very close. You're very close to your partner, which before that was not done. Before the war, like, that wasn't a thing. You'd do waltzes and, foxtrots and things, but it wasn't as, like, body touching and things like that. Not as risque.
Yeah, so from there we go into the 30s and progress forward into the swing dancing and the jazz of the 40s, which, just continues it up to where we are today. If we hadn't had World War I, the Edwardian age probably would have lasted a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because it was one of the shortest periods as far as costume. Edwardian really did not last that long compared to Victorian or any of the others before.
That, like, Edwardian period is not very long.
So the Edwardian time period really starts in 1901 and leads up to about the start of World War I. So maybe 20, well, not even, like 15 years tops.
Approximately. About 15 years.
So it really did not get that much time. We had the Gibson Girls, which is about where we start in season 1 with, the sinking of the Titanic as the first episode.
The Gibson look, that was on the downturn right around the very beginning.
The first episode is kind of one of the last episodes where you see the fuller hair bird nested on top of their heads, and it starts to slowly come down and rust a little bit around their jawline by the
it moves to the back a little bit more.
And so you see a whole lot of changes, which I really appreciate with this show.
Yeah. I mean, even the Dowager, she changes ever so slightly throughout. Yes. She goes from, like, hardcore, like, very, very turn of the century looking to much, a little bit more modern, but still keeping that kind of pigeon-breasted shape to some of her clothes. They're not as, modern, but they still change a little bit. Her hats specifically will get a little smaller and things like that.
Yeah, she is definitely the slowest one to change as far as dress.
Yeah. But she doesn't like change. It's not good.
No, but that, how very British of her.
Very British.
So let's talk a little bit about downstairs now that we've kind of talked out upstairs. Mm-hmm. The color change just from upstairs to downstairs is very stark. You go from the bright, colorful beads and headpieces to downstairs is very plain, very functional.
Functional, more natural colors. The fabrics they're not shiny. They're meant to be worked in and washed continuously all the time. Mm-hmm. They're usually like cottons and muslins and linens and things, wools.
Yes, tweed, wool. The lady maids wear black.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the nicest dressed of downstairs is the butler.
Yeah, the butlers and
the valets.
Yeah, the keeper, the housekeeper.
Right. She does look very nice in a very modest way.
Mm-hmm.
You never really see anything sparkly on her. You don't really see any of that, but she definitely has nicer clothes. Definitely makes a decent salary, because even when it's her day off and she's down into the town, she's very well dressed.
Yeah.
So the the Crawleys clearly take care of their downstairs people, but I don't think that was the most common treatment of their downstairs.
No, that's not normally. Normally they wouldn't even really know about their day-to-day lives. Like, what the servants did on their own time was their thing. Like, upstairs probably wouldn't have cared so much. They wouldn't have been so close, exactly.
Right.
Is what. Yeah.
Yeah, they were definitely an exception rather than, the rule.
Yeah.
Mr. Bates definitely would not have been tolerated.
Oh, no. Not at all.
And, but then that wouldn't be very fun drama to watch.
Yeah, no.
They also, it shows that they had long hours, kind of. Like, you see that they are working a lot, but you never really see downstairs just kind of exhausted, guzzling coffee, as I feel like many of us feel today. But, they drank coffee. They were probably really dependent on it, because this
coffee
is also
and tea,
yeah, this is about the time where, labor laws started
to come into effect.
And labor laws had to be put in place for a reason. Because
if you wake up at 4 in the morning to get the fire started and the cooking started, and then you don't go to bed until
they go to bed,
until they go to midnight. If they have a party, then you're out. You have to be cleaning. You have to finish all the dishes, like put all their stuff away. Like and then wake up the next morning. Maybe you get
after an hour or two of sleep.
A few hours, maybe, if you're lucky. Yeah, and then do it all over again. And,
right.
Yeah.
So downstairs was definitely a harder life, and Downton Abbey doesn't really properly show that.
Yeah, it doesn't show how hard it really was. Everything is very sanitized, from what I can tell about the kitchens. It looks very, very clean. It's very clean. And
it's clean.
It's also a lot brighter than I think it would have been.
The cook's clothes are very clean.
They're like immaculate, unless she's like really doing something. Then you see a couple things, like she's got flour on or something.
And stuff.
But no, apron would have been stained.
Horribly stained.
Yeah, that's why the cooks weren't really upstairs.
Right, I've worked as an expediter, and we have to wear a white shirt, and I swear to God, that white shirt does not make it one shift before I'm there with, soda water dabbing off another stain.
Yep.
And so the cook and everyone in the kitchen is definitely... Daisy always looks so adorable.
I know.
Her clothes are... When she's working, I never see her with, some hollandaise...
or chocolate sauce right on the chest, or nothing.
So that's a little frustrating and takes you out of it a little bit. Also, because distressing is so much fun.
Distressing is fun.
It's so much fun to take a costume and just mess it up.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they don't do that a little bit more, because it's so enjoyable. But and then Branson, I understand when he was, out driving, he always looked clean, but you rarely ever saw him, except for a couple of stolen moments with Sybil as he worked on his car. He still looked
had a little bit of grease. Yeah, he had a little bit of grease on his hands,
right.
Maybe.
Very handsome amount of grease, never anything too dirty.
A touch, just a touch.
Yeah. So if anything, one of their biggest inaccuracies is, the lack of dirt.
Yeah, it's mostly in the kitchen staff, and maybe, if they're working out, like, in the stables or anything like that. You see some of the farming people that look a little bit more dirty, but who, live on their land, but other than that...
Right, but even their costumes are, they're a little too nice.
Yeah, they're still a little bit nicer than I would expect from...
Right, and that. I mean... The fabric just doesn't look quite as rough as it might have been. And their hair is always way nicer.
Oh my god, it's so perfect.
Like the farmer's wife, she looks a little tired and a little, run down, but she still looks beautiful on TV.
Yeah.
She's not too homely.
Yeah, the hair is always good. And I don't think a farmer's wife would necessarily always, put little cloth curlers, in her hair every night. Instead, she's got better things to do, like, feed the pigs and take care of her children and do the laundry. I don't think they could really have time.
I mean, doing your hair can take 2 hours. I mean, for my rockabilly, sometimes getting the perfect hair and makeup takes a full-blown 2 hours from the time that I, take out my perfect pin curls and, get the hair set and then roll it properly and get it to, comb and everything. So, it's a TV show, and we recognize that. Yeah. And they're not going to, be spot on. Everyone's teeth is a little bit better than they would have been. Everyone is a little more beautiful than they would have been. But overall, Downton Abbey really nails the costumes.
Yeah, really.
I think that's our overall feeling with Downton Abbey, is that, and I think that's why we wanted to start with this for our first show. It didn't give us a whole lot to talk about as far as, inaccuracies and everything, but it gave us a chance to just kind of talk about what we love and let you, the listeners, get to know us. And in future episodes, we will pick shows that really sucked.
Oh, I'm so excited to tear some shows apart.
Just to name a couple off the top of our heads, like Shakespeare in Love.
Rain, hands down. Oh my god, I can't even. On a scale of 1 to even, I can't.
Yeah, that might be our next episode. Just because I think we could easily fill a lot of time crying softly into our, sewing machines. Which is not good for them, so we should stop making us cry into our sewing machines. But, let's see, what else would the listeners like to know about us? I mean, now you know one of our favorite TV shows. We watch Downton Abbey. I religiously check Prime for new episodes. We'll also talk in a future episode about Selfridges.
Oh, Mr.
Yeah,
Selfridge.
BBC knows their shit. Like, hands down, you throw us a BBC show, we're gonna find a lot right with it. Tudors, there's some things wrong with it. That's a BBC show that has some issues, but they were early on in the whole pleasing the modern eye, so we can give them that allowance. Reign is very late to the pleasing the modern eye show. They
just want to sell. Basically,
they just want to sell free people to everyone.
Yeah.
Sell the free people. I don't really get the free people bandwagon, but, party on. If you want distressed-looking pants, buy them yourselves, people. Buy pants from a thrift store, and you can do whatever you want to them.
Yeah. And Downton Abbey is actually just really hard to talk about, honestly. It's really hard to find anything wrong with it, and I haven't watched it in a bit because I finished it a while back. So it's not fresh. Oh my god, if we do Reign, I'm going to actually have to watch part of it.
I know, that's what I'm dreading.
I'm dreading that. I am so not looking forward to that. I might vomit a little bit. I'll be like with my boyfriend. I'm like, he's like, are you okay? I'm like,
I know, season 1's on
I
Netflix.
swallowed it. I'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not gonna be fun.
No.
Just have a notebook with you. And
I'll be like, it's so bad. Why? It's torture.
Well, so this has been The Girls Anachronism. And I'm Kate Wood.
And I'm Caitlin Flynn.
And we will attempt to update once every week as our schedules allow it. So yeah, please be patient with us as we get this started and figured out. But we hope to at least do this once a week.
Yeah.
All right. See y'all next time.
All right. Bye.